Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers offseason preview. Let's get right into it. This team had a pretty poor season. They were one of the worst teams in the NBA. I think they finished with the second worst record. So lots of improvement is needed for this team to compete. However, they've got a couple of pretty good pieces going into the offseason. They've got their four first round picks from the past 2 years in Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, and then Kevin Porter Jr. and Dylan Windler. They also have two former All-Stars in Kevin Love and Andre Drummond. So this team is certainly in an interesting place right now. Their coach is JB Bickerstaff. I'm pretty sure they hired him now, and he wasn't just the interim. So I think that he'll be their coach going into next season. I think he did a pretty good job when he was with the Grizzlies. So this could be a good fit for them. We'll see. With the draft, they have the 5th pick. I've heard a lot of rumors that they are going to trade this pick the main rumor out there is 5th pick and Kevin Love for Ben Simmons, but I'm not sure why the Cavaliers would do that the 76ers would do that considering they already have Horford and Embiid as big men. Maybe they would trade Horford for Love, and the Sixers would have to attach like 2 first-round picks or something since Horford's contract runs on longer. That's more of a possibility than trading Love for Simmons. But, I've heard that there's a strong possibility of the Cavs trading the 5th pick. There's been a lot of rumors about that I've read. If they do make that pick, I think if Denny Avdija is on the board, then they should absolutely draft him. He's from Israel. He's a wing, and seems like maybe one of the highest potential players in this league, in this draft class. One of few who could potentially make an all-star team if he plays up to his potential. People say they see a lot of Hedo Turkoglu in him. I never watched Hedo too much. I'm young guy, so I was probably like 6 or 7 when he retired only, so not real sure on that comparison, but I do see that he could be a really quality scoring wing in the NBA, and I definitely think that this is right around the spot that he should be taken. However, there's also a lot of rumors that the Bulls are interested in him at number 4, so he may not still be on the board. If he's not, I like Onyeka Okongwu's fit. I think that he's a good big man, and they'd be able to develop him well. He could come off the bench for a season behind Drummond, and Drummond could kind of mentor him and help him to develop into a good player. I also think that Killian Hayes would be a really good pick in this area. I think Killian is probably the surest shot player in this draft, him and Okongwu. I think that he's going to be a really good player with all-star potential. He reminds me a lot of D'Angelo Russell. But I also am not sure that they want to draft a guard, considering they got Garland and Sexton last season. However, neither of these two look super promising. Obviously, Colin Sexton is a good scorer, but we haven't seen a whole lot much else in his game. Doesn't look like a great passer or a plus defender. Actually, is probably one of the 10 worst defenders in the entire league this year. So I definitely think it's possible that they could draft a guard and just try to make it work. Maybe Garland is included in a trade. I certainly think that's a possibility. Otherwise, they could trade down with this pick. Their biggest need is probably at wing. So if they say, well, we're not in love with any of the guys on the board here, we can just trade down. Maybe they really like Sadiq Bey or Aaron Nesmith or Patrick Williams, and they could trade down into the late lottery and get another asset in return. That's definitely a possibility as well. Another trade they could make this offseason is obviously the Kevin Love trade. I was looking at a few potential fits for Love. I definitely think he would work in Minnesota well, especially if Minnesota drafts Anthony Edwards. Then if they make a trade of the 16th pick, James Johnson, and maybe Jake Layman. I'm not sure if the numbers work there, and the Cavs may want a bit more for Love, but they're getting a first-round pick and an expiring contract in James Johnson. So I think that that's a possible trade, and that would make Minnesota have a starting lineup of D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, assuming that's the draft, otherwise LaMelo Ball. At the 3, maybe they would start Malik Beasley at the 2 and Edwards at the 3. Otherwise, Beasley could come off the bench and they could start Josh Okogie or Jarrett Culver. And at the 4, Kevin Love. At the 5, Karl Anthony Towns. I definitely think that's a playoff team. There's not a lot of defense going on there. I don't think there's, other than Okogie, a single plus defender maybe in their entire rotation, considering off the bench they have Juancho Hernan-Gomez. Sorry, I'm talking a little bit too much about the Timberwolves. This is about the Cavs. We'll talk about the Timberwolves very soon. But maybe a Houston trade could work, and they would get Aaron Gordon's contract in return for Kevin Love. Boston's another possibility if they want to trade Gordon Hayward. Just kind of a fit thing for both teams. Boston could use a big man, whereas Cleveland could use a wing. So 2 pretty even leveled players swapped for each other. Brooklyn could make sense as a last resort for them if they have trouble finding any other star, or I guess Kevin Love's not really a star anymore, so just a shooter they could surround their superstar core and Kyrie and KD with. Portland is another possibility. Not real sure what they would trade in return. Maybe like a Trevor Ariza based deal along with one of the young players. So probably Anthony Simons or Nasir Little, and then a future first, something like that. And then Sacramento was the last one, a Buddy Hield for Kevin Love swap, although the Cavaliers probably have to throw in another asset there. Maybe Dylan Windler would be a possibility. I don't know if they will trade Drummond. He doesn't seem like a great fit for them, but maybe they... So that's a possibility if they find a team that wants a center. Charlotte certainly does, and if they end up drafting LaMelo, maybe that's a spot they could trade Drummond to in exchange for the Nick Batum contract and like an asset of some kind. Maybe it's a future first, maybe it's 2 seconds. I'm not completely sure what Drummond's value would be. Free agency, their outgoing free agents are Drummond, but he has a player option that I think he'll opt into, considering it's almost $30 million, and there's no way he's getting that kind of money on the open market. Tristan Thompson, who they should let walk. Not a whole lot of reason to hang on to an aging center who would not even start on their team anymore. Matthew Dellavedova, oh well. I guess he's a veteran point guard, so maybe they want to hang on to him to mentor Garland and Sexton. That certainly is a possibility. Ante Zizic, however, I've read a couple times that he may sign a overseas contract once again and go back overseas, and I'm not sure that that's a huge loss for them. I really don't think that he is anything special. And Jordan Bell, who's just a young big guy. I'm not sure if he got a whole lot of playing time even. So, not a whole lot of important outgoing free agents. Some targets for them are high potential guys that were drafted high in the draft and did not end up panning out for their team. guys like Josh Jackson and Harry Giles, or another young guy who has shown potential, and Derek Jones Jr., just kind of take a risk on one of those guys, or not even a risk, more like a lottery ticket, because they could blossom into good players to surround their current young core with. Another free agent they could target, I thought, was Jeff Teague or DJ Augustine, just as a veteran point guard to mentor their young guards. And their potential 2020-2021 rotation, I think it'd be something like Garland at the point guard, Sexton at the shooting guard, Kevin Porter at the small forward, Kevin Love at the power forward, and Drummond at the center. And then off the bench, Jetty Osman, Dylan Windler, their first round draft pick. So whether it's Okongwu, Avdija, although if they drafted Avdija, Denny Avdija, he would probably start over Kevin Porter. There's definitely a lot of options they could go with there, but like I said earlier in the video, I think that person would probably come off the bench. Unless it's Denny, because small forward is really the only spot where they're not locked in to a starter right now. And then a backup point guard. Maybe it's Dellavedova, maybe it's Jeff Teague or DJ Augustine or someone in that vein. This team is probably one of the worst in the league, but I wouldn't be completely surprised to see them make a jump up the standings just because of a potential breakout season by Garland, Sexton, or Porter. That or Kevin Love or Andre Drummond has a good season and plays like they did in their prime. So I think this team could maybe be a fringe playoff contender for the first part of the season, but in reality, I don't think this team's going anywhere, especially if they trade Kevin Love or Andre Drummond to try to get younger and stockpile some more assets. Yeah, I think that's all I've got for you today, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you again very soon.